The hidden frequency, when your soul starts speaking louder than your voice. I need you to imagine something. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the world doesn't feel quite real anymore. Not in a scary way, in a clear way. Everything looks the same, but nothing feels the same. People speak, but you hear what's behind their words. Time moves, but you're not caught in it. And when you touch someone, it's like your energy is doing more than just making contact, it's transmitting something. If you felt this, even just once, you might already be vibrating beyond the human frequency. This is not fantasy. This is not theory. This is happening right now, all over the planet, to people just like you, quietly, subtly, but unmistakably. You don't need to be a monk. You don't need to live in a Himalayan cave. You could be someone walking through a crowded city, headphones in, coffee in hand, but your soul is tuning into something way bigger than the noise around you. Let's be real. There's a shift happening. And some of us are starting to feel like we don't fully belong in the old human paradigm anymore. It's like our soul is outgrowing the costume we've been wearing. And the signs of that? They're not always flashy. They're often quiet, but they are undeniable. So let me walk with you through this together. I'm not here to teach you something you don't know. I'm here to remind you of what you've already felt, but maybe didn't have words for.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lessons.
The first clear sign that your vibration is beyond human, you feel things before they happen. I'm not talking about predictions or psychic visions, though those may come. I'm talking about this deep bodily knowing. You enter a room, and you already feel the energy before people speak. Someone smiles, and you feel the pain behind it. You walk into nature, and the trees talk to you not with words, but with frequency. So many of us learn to ignore this, to write it off. But now, it's like your inner compass refuses to stay silent. Let me ask you something deeply personal. Have you ever known something that made no logical sense, but your soul screamed it was true? If you have, that's not imagination. That's vibration. You're tuning into a bandwidth beyond the five senses. You've started to live more from the field, the invisible space where energy speaks louder than form. And in that space, the human game starts to look different. The masks, the ego, the social ladders, they all begin to lose their grip. Now the second sign, and this one is often misunderstood. You feel insanely alone, even when surrounded by people. Not because you're broken, not because you're antisocial, but because your soul is moving into solitude. Not isolation, solitude. The sacred kind. The kind where you start to feel the presence of something far greater than the crowd. And when you're alone, you're not empty, you're full of presence, full of being, full of awareness that feels more real than any conversation you had all week. This loneliness isn't a curse, it's a calling. It's the soul pulling you inward, away from the noise, away from the distractions, and into the frequency where you begin to remember yourself as more than just a body moving through time. You start remembering yourself as consciousness unbound, untamed, and eternal. And that leads us into a deeper layer. The third sign your vibration is beyond human is this: you're no longer motivated by the same things. Status, money, praise, competition, they start to feel hollow. And not because you've become passive or weak. No, quite the opposite. You've become tuned in. And now, only alignment feels good. Only truth satisfies. You don't want to win anymore, you want to merge with what's real. You want to serve. You want to radiate. You want to be the thing you used to chase. But here's the strange part: it makes functioning in the old world harder. The jobs, the roles, the routines, they feel like tight clothes on a growing soul. And people might not get it. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're too sensitive or too distant. But deep down, you know the truth. You're not shrinking anymore. You're expanding. And expansion feels like chaos at first. You're not crazy. You're not lazy. You're not missing out. You're waking up. Have you ever looked around and thought, why does none of this feel real to me anymore? That's not depression. That's not disconnection. That's evolution. The fourth sign is subtle but powerful. You affect everything around you without even trying. People open up to you. Strangers cry in your presence. Children and animals are drawn to you. Electronics glitch around you. Lights flicker. And when you're in a room, people either feel incredibly safe or inexplicably triggered. Why? Because your field is doing the talking. Your energy is no longer neutral. It's alive. It's becoming a force. Not because you're trying to control anything, but because you're aligned with something much bigger than yourself. Consciousness is flowing through you more directly now. And when that happens, your presence becomes a mirror that reflects the truth in others. Some will love you for it. Others will avoid you. But you'll start to realize it's not personal. It's energetic. You've become a living transmission. And that's when the fifth sign starts to emerge, the most unmistakable one. You begin to remember who you were before you were born, not as memories, as resonance. You feel it in dreams, in silence, in music, in moments of awe. You don't remember facts, you remember frequencies. You remember being light. You remember floating. You remember watching your life from a higher vantage point. You remember choosing this. And in that remembrance, something sacred awakens, the knowing that you're not here to survive. You're not here to prove anything. You're not here to play small. You're here to embody a frequency that changes the fabric of this planet simply by being what you already are. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. This kind of vibration can feel painful at first, because you're shedding lifetimes of programming. You're releasing the density of centuries. You're waking up in a world that still wants you asleep. But you're not alone. Let me say that again. You are not alone. There are others, millions, quietly waking up, quietly holding the light, quietly remembering. And you've just found your signal in the noise. So I want to ask you this, soul to soul. What if your sensitivity is not your weakness, but your superpower? What if the very things that made you feel different were actually signs that you're here to bring in a new frequency? Because if you felt even one of these signs, your vibration is no longer confined to the human matrix. You are becoming something new, something ancient, something cosmic. You are returning to your original blueprint. And this isn't a one-time event. This is a process, a sacred unraveling, a divine remembering. And once it begins, there's no going back, only deeper in, only deeper up. So breathe with me for a moment. Feel this truth in your body. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're awakening. You're ascending. You're remembering. And the signs are no longer subtle. The soul frequency shift, why you can't go back once you've touched the infinite, when your soul begins to awaken, when your vibration starts to rise above the density of what we call normal human experience, something irreversible happens. The illusion loses its grip on you. And even though you might try to return to the comfort of the familiar, to the jobs, the roles, the identities, the relationships that once made you feel secure, you can't. You can pretend for a while. You can go through the motions. But deep inside, you know a fundamental truth. You've touched something real, something eternal, something that vibrates beyond the human story. And once you've touched that frequency, once your being remembers the taste of the infinite, the soul refuses to settle for anything less. You begin to see through things, through systems, through people, through your own thoughts. Not with judgment, no, with clarity, with compassion. You see the structure of the matrix, and you no longer identify with it. You watch people chasing status, clinging to opinions, defending illusions, and instead of reacting, you feel a kind of quiet ache for them. Because you were there too. You remember what it felt like to live in that fog. But now, something inside you has shifted. You've moved from reaction to observation, from control to surrender, from seeking to being. This is where the spiritual journey gets real. Not romantic, not cinematic, real. Because the higher your vibration climbs, the more everything that is not in resonance with truth begins to fall away. It's not always gentle. Sometimes it's a loss. Sometimes it's a breakdown. Sometimes it's deep, uncomfortable silence. But all of it is sacred. All of it is part of the dismantling of the false self. And this is what many people don't understand about ascension. It's not about floating above life. It's about descending into your body so fully, so truthfully, that you become an anchor of the divine in physical form. That you carry the frequency of love, not as a concept, but as a presence. And in that presence you heal rooms, you shift conversations, you unlock hearts. Not because you're trying, but because you're tuned in. You've become a transmitter, a living node in the spiritual nervous system of the planet. And every thought, every breath, every movement you make when aligned sends out waves of coherence into the field. But here's the paradox. The more your vibration rises, the more invisible you may start to feel. Not because you don't exist, but because you no longer vibrate at the frequency of drama, conflict, or superficial noise. The world doesn't know what to do with someone who doesn't need validation, who can walk away without anger, who can love without attachment, who can speak truth without needing to be right. And so, you begin to live in a kind of sacred in-betweenness, not fully of this world, but not disconnected from it either. You become a bridge, a mirror, a guide, and sometimes, just by existing, you trigger people. You reflect to them what they haven't faced in themselves, You might not say a word, but your energy will speak volumes. And this is when you must remember one of the most important spiritual truths. Do not dim your light to make others comfortable. Your frequency is not here to fit in. It's here to wake up. And waking up is not always gentle. It's disruptive. And yes, it can be lonely. Because when you vibrate beyond human, you begin to see that most people are still asleep in the dream of separation. But instead of judging them, you begin to hold space for their awakening in their own time. You begin to embody patience, not as tolerance, but as wisdom. You understand that evolution is not a race. It's a spiral. And everyone is exactly where they need to be. So you stop trying to fix people. You stop arguing. You stop convincing. You simply be, and in the being, you radiate the possibility of another way. Have you ever walked into a room and said nothing, but felt the entire energy shift? That is not an accident. That is a sign of your frequency. You are no longer a personality reacting to life. You are a field of awareness, responding from a higher plane. And this is why your emotions have become more intense, more sensitive, more refined. Because your energy body is expanding. Your nervous system is upgrading. Your heart is opening wider than ever before. You feel more because you are more. And with this comes a sacred responsibility, not to fix the world, but to remain in your alignment even when the world around you doesn't make sense. Because coherence is contagious. Your vibration teaches without speaking. It heals without touching. It leads without controlling. And that's why the old ways stop working for you. You've probably felt it. The old routines drain you. The old foods make you heavy. Loud environments overstimulate you. Shallow conversations leave you empty. You're not becoming weak, you're becoming clear. You are being rewired to operate from a higher bandwidth. And yes, you might lose some people along the way, but you'll also attract others' souls who recognize you, not by your face, but by your frequency. These are your tribe, and when you find them, it's like remembering a song you forgot you used to sing together. There will be no need to explain, no need to prove, just resonance, just recognition. Just the sacred joy of finding reflections of your essence in human form. And here's something even deeper. When your vibration is beyond human, you don't just influence people, you influence reality itself. Time bends. Synchronicities become constant. Manifestation accelerates. You begin to live in flow, not because you've hacked the system, but because you've merged with it. You no longer fight against life, you dance with it. And in that dance, miracles become normal. Not because you forced them, but because you aligned with the field where they already exist. So let me ask you something that might shake you. What would your life look like if you stopped pretending to be human in the old way and started living as the divine consciousness you truly are? What would you stop doing? What would you start allowing? Who would you become, not in the eyes of others, but in the eyes of your own soul? Because this journey isn't about becoming something else. It's about remembering what you've always been, beyond the masks, beyond the stories, beyond the timelines. You are not here to fit in. You are here to recalibrate the grid. You are a living reminder that the divine is not separate from humanity, it is hidden within it. And the more you embody your frequency, the more you awaken that same truth in others. So don't shrink. Don't apologize. Don't wait for permission. Your vibration is your signature. It is your sacred offering. It is the light code you carry into this dimension. And the world needs it now more than ever. Not in theory, in embodiment, in action, in presence. You don't need to be loud. You don't need a platform. You don't need a movement. You just need to be real. Real in your energy. Real in your integrity. Real in your love. Because when your vibration is beyond human, you don't need to convince anyone of anything. You just are. And in that being, you become the very thing the world has been searching for. Not a savior, not a guru, but a mirror showing others what's possible, simply by living it yourself. The light body awakens. Becoming a living portal between dimensions, there comes a moment on this path, a quiet but soul-shaking moment when you realize you are no longer just a person walking through a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual frequency walking through a human illusion. This is not metaphor. This is not poetic exaggeration. This is the raw truth of what it means to vibrate beyond the density of the human form. Your body continues, yes. Your name still echoes in conversation. But something inside you has shifted its center of gravity. You're no longer anchored in the personality. You're anchored in presence, in light, in source. And from that place you begin to operate as a living portal bridging the visible and the invisible, the known and the unknowable, the finite and the infinite. You might not have words for it at first. In fact, most people don't. That's why this phase can feel disorienting. You're no longer who you were, but you're not quite sure who you're becoming. You feel pulled between worlds. You may be going to your job, paying your bills, having conversations, but underneath it all runs a strange and sacred current. A current that whispers, "You are more than this." And the more you listen, the stronger it gets. Until one day you no longer need proof. You no longer need signs, you know. You are not just living in the universe. The universe is living in you. And this is when your light body begins to awaken. Not as a concept, as a felt reality. You start to feel energy in your hands. You sense vibrations in your spine. You notice shifts in your field when you think certain thoughts or speak certain words. You become aware of space in a new way, not just physical space, but energetic architecture. You walk into a room and feel its memory. You touch someone and feel the story they've never told. You close your eyes and see colors that aren't on the spectrum of anything you've known before. This isn't imagination. This is ascension technology embedded in your DNA. And it's activating. As your vibration rises, your body becomes less dense. Your cells start to release stored trauma, inherited fear, ancestral programming. Sometimes this comes with physical symptoms, fatigue, buzzing sensations, emotional waves that arrive without warning. But these aren't problems. They are purges. Your system is recalibrating to hold more light, more clarity, more truth. And truth is not always comfortable at first, because it burns through the lies. It burns through the masks. It burns through everything that cannot survive in the presence of the divine. And yet, in the middle of that burning, something beautiful begins to emerge: freedom. Not the freedom the world sells you, not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom to be who you really are, without apology, without performance, without distortion. You stop needing to prove anything. You stop needing to chase anything. You start to emanate. And this is when you realize something that flips your perception upside down. You're not here to ascend out of this world. You're here to bring heaven into it. You are not escaping the matrix. You are recoding it. With every breath you take in presence, you're anchoring the new grid. With every act of compassion untainted by ego, you're transmitting a new pattern into the collective field. With every time you choose love over fear, truth over comfort, silence over noise, you're shifting the frequency of the entire human story. This is not fantasy. This is frequency work. And you, my friend, are a node in the divine intelligence system. You are a pulse of light carrying the original blueprint of what human life was meant to be. Not survival, but embodiment. Not separation, but union. Not struggle, but sovereignty. But here's the most beautiful and humbling part. The more awakened you become, the less you feel the need to call yourself awakened. The more light you carry, the quieter your ego becomes. The more power flows through you, the more reverent you become toward the mystery that lives through all things. You stop needing to be the hero. You stop needing to be the teacher. You just become a presence, a silent flame. A field where others begin to remember, not because you told them, but because something in you reactivated something in them. Let me ask you something now, not as a question, but as a mirror. What if your very presence is already awakening people, and you don't even know it? What if your vibration, your stillness, your truth is already rippling out in ways the mind will never understand, but the soul always knew? Because it is. You are not here by accident. You didn't just stumble onto this life. You are a frequency holder, a grid keeper, a circuit of light in a world that forgot its own source. And the moment you stop pretending to be small, pretending to be confused, pretending to be less than what you are, the moment you own your frequency without arrogance, without fear, that is the moment the whole world around you begins to shift. You'll notice it in people's eyes, in the way synchronicities line up like clockwork, in the way obstacles melt without effort, in the way your intuition becomes a roar instead of a whisper, or in the way time bends around your alignment. Because when your vibration is beyond human, you are no longer just living in the third dimension. You are integrating multiple dimensions at once. You are walking in both worlds with one foot in the formless and one foot in form, and your heart as the bridge. And yes, it's a lot. Sometimes it's overwhelming. Sometimes you'll wish you could just go back to sleep, to forget, to blend in. But you can't. Not anymore. You've seen too much. You felt too much. You've remembered too much. And now, your only path is forward. Not up, not out, inward. Deeper, truer, brighter. And the deeper you go, the more you'll realize the final, most sacred truth of all. You are not the light. You are the door through which the light enters this world. And when you live like that, when you become that, you don't just raise your own vibration. You raise the vibration of everyone you meet, not by trying, just by being. So breathe. Feel that. Let it settle into your bones. Because this is not the end of your journey. This is the beginning of your embodiment. You are no longer just waking up. You are becoming the wake-up call for others. And if you've ever wondered why things have felt so intense lately, why your emotions are louder, your body more sensitive, your dreams more vivid, it's because your soul is no longer whispering. It's singing. It's vibrating a frequency that is not of this world, but is exactly what this world needs. So walk tall. Walk clear. Walk in stillness, not because you're empty, but because you're full. Full of the light that cannot be taught, only remembered. You are not human in the old way anymore. You are the new human. You are the bridge. You are the portal. You are the frequency we've been waiting for.